like to welcome you to our workshop, September 4th, 2014. And I want to call this meeting on. If you please rise, I'd like to call Ms. Barnett. She will send our pledge. And Councilman Stewart, we do have our invocation. Ms. Barnett.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just pause to say thank you for your grace, your mercy. And our Father, we thank you for your rangers in our way. Like you always say, you are an on-time God. And Father God, we ask you to bless this council, this mayor, we ask you to bless this city, and bless us with this evening, Father, as we make the safe of our great city. And we ask you to continue to bless our leaders here, our employees, and all our citizens that make this city up. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks. Hey, Chief.
Melcher.
Thank you.
Y'all let him know?
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry, that last one sign up there.
Oh, we good? Oh, sorry. Oh, come up, Lance.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're fine. Just wanted to take a minute to update you guys from McDonough Arts and what's going on, and speak very quickly about a couple things we're in support of. Just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that we had delivered, once again, another round of support checks to all of the art teachers in the county. $250 per teacher going into this school year, and $5,000 for the PAC to buy. He said they needed microphones, so that's, their choice on what they spend it on. I guess as long as we approve it, maybe I should say it that way. So we really feel like it's making an impact, and we appreciate the history of McDonough Arts and what's going on, and just the things that are going on there, and the support from mayor and council. We also have on October 18th will be the seminar with the Miss Teen and Miss Georgia USA. Will be here. That seems to be going October 18th. We're waiting on a vote Monday night from the Board of Ed, but we believe we will have their seminar at the theater type room at the Board of Ed. We are really fighting to keep that in McDonough, just because you have so many people coming in town. It'll be Lee Greenwood's wife and a whole bunch of dignitaries, and so we are fighting to keep that here in McDonough. That will be from 10 to 3 is the time frames they'll be having those. That's October 18th. November 9th will be the Merchants Open House hosted by McDonough Arts in the Square. That is a Sunday. Traditionally, we bring the Grinch in, and it quite honestly looks like a bunch of ants on a hill. There's so many people, so that appears to be really well under control. And then November 21st through 22nd will in fact be the pageant that will be held at the PAC. So I have a lot of details. I know y'all are busy. I'm available if you need those. We are keeping that up to date on the Merchants page, and at direction of Mayor and Council, if you guys need information another way, we will gladly provide that. And then the last thing I had to speak on was the support of the Polk building. If anybody has any questions as far as McDonough Arts and what we can do to be supportive of that, please let us know. Just supportive of the progress that's being made on the Polk building and the hard work that Mayor and Council are doing to get that.
Is the Arts Council involved with that project?
Well, we have thought for years that historically we would just be supportive of the project, be available to help with fundraising, have a presence in the Polk building, the ability to sell tickets or display art or, whatever.
Have there been discussions about a use? Because we have not had discussion about a use for the building.
Historically, there has been just a constant conversation in the community about the arts working together as a group in the Polk building, so we had a place to display art, sell tickets, come together. I don't think that there has ever been any formal mayor and council conversation, just because there wasn't really a plan
Yeah,
on
because
the
there seem to
table.
be two discussions. There's a discussion about a museum, and now I'm hearing through the mayor that there are other discussions with the Arts Council. One of those discussions I have been a part of. And so, because mayor and council has not had this discussion, I'm just trying to figure out
Sure.
who's involved with what, so that we can in fact move the project forward. Because I've been involved for at least 6 years.
Well,
So,
from the Arts Council perspective, we've been having that conversation about wanting to be supportive
with
and
whom?
the community, different business leaders, and because there was no actual plan, if you will, for what to do with the Polk building, it's never been brought before mayor and council. A lot of people have come to us and said, would the arts be supportive if there was something in the Polk building? That's why we hosted Jean
I'm
Charlot's.
just trying, well, Jean Charlo, I was the person who was responsible, along with Barbara Frazier, for getting him here. He contacted us about being here, and Mr. Charlo has indicated that he is willing to use his name and his foundation, some of the materials, in terms of naming that building after him. And what I keep saying to everybody here is that you might not be able to get people off of the interstate under the name of the McDonough Arts Council.
Oh, we never expected the building to be named after us.
But I'm just saying, we have a tremendous opportunity because Mr. Charlo is a nationally, internationally acclaimed artist. And to miss this opportunity would be a travesty on our part. So I think there needs to be some serious conversation with the parties who have been involved about where we're headed so that a real recommendation can be made to the mayor and council.
We need to have a serious conversation with mayor and council.
Exactly.
Right, and I think we have shown that we're very supportive of the mayor and council, and really now that there is what appears to be an achievable plan on the Polk building, my purpose for being here tonight is,
Where's the plan? When you say an achievable plan.
well, there's conversations between, well, you've posted it about, the things that are going on with the Polk building and possibly Clay Plaza, and
I posted some things about Clay Plaza, but the issue with the Polk building is I've been prohibited from further engagement concerning the Polk building. So I'm just trying to find out, there seems to be a mysterious plan out there that as a council person, I don't know anything
well,
about.
I don't know anything about a mysterious plan at all.
I just keep hearing the term, there's a plan, there's a plan.
Well, I'm sure mayor and council can address that from the McDonough Arts perspective. We're sticking to our position of being very supportive of mayor and council and what's going on. We continue to want to be a part of whatever's going on in the city. Would
Has
welcome.
anybody indicated to you that that building would be turned over to
No.
the McDonough
No,
Arts Council?
and we haven't asked for the building,
Okay.
okay, at all. And, I think that is something that would take direction from mayor and council, and if that's out there, it hasn't been presented to us at all.
Okay, that's great to hear from you. Okay.
Yeah, all we have done is hosted events, trying to bring awareness, trying to be supportive, and making sure all of the arts groups in the county are working together, as one accord under one umbrella. We have been very clear that we take our direction from mayor and council, and we want to be very participatory in the things that are going on at the city level.
Okay, the Arts Council takes their directive from mayor and council?
You may recall several years back, I came in as president of McDonough Arts and said, we will let you guys know what we're doing for our list, what we're doing, what our events are, and make sure they fall in line with what you guys are doing.
Well, see, I didn't know that your partnership was at that level, because there are opportunities out there right now, especially as it relates to Clay Plaza. So to know that you're taking direction from mayor and council is a positive thing, because that's an opportunity for some additional planning strategies.
Absolutely, and I think that's the reason we've been so faithful about bringing the return on investment studies back and the economic impacts and all that kind of stuff. So, we want to work with you guys. You're the one that has to set the tone and the plan, and acquire the buildings and those type things, but no, there's never been a conversation in McDonough Arts about us wanting our name on anything. We're all about the city, not our name. I mean, we've even said we changed the name, I don't care.
Well, I see, I was one of the founding members of the McDonough Arts Council, so I appreciate the fact about taking directive from mayor and council, because that opens up another opportunity.
Yeah, we've tried to be very clear about that, because I think it got, a little off kilter, several years back. And then we also have the cemetery tour coming up on, the 25th.
Y'all do such
Yeah.
You guys do a great job.
a great job, and I'm highly supportive of you, and, again, one of the options that we have, is there are other options we haven't discussed it.
Sure.
Right now, the situation is in the county's hands, and we keep getting ahead of ourselves.
Right.
So we gotta get the building first.
And that's kind of where we
And
stand.
then we'll talk about these other options. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Hey, man. Your name, Baylor?
That's it.
George, come on up. It's not raining outside, is it?
Just a little. Sorry, I look like
No,
I'm wearing a hat.
You look like the rest of us.
You know, believe it or not, this all happened in the transition between the door
Oh, there?
and getting my umbrella closed. And it's not easy being tall, because the taller you are, the more.
It looks like you did it well for you.
Yeah.
What can we do for you, young man? Let's see, you want to talk about the housing authority? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
well, it's my understanding that, and again, thank you for the allocation of $500,000 for SPLOST for the senior housing unit for the housing authority. Again, I'm here as chair of the housing authority, and sort of has come to our attention that possibly our project is being moved from a bonded situation to a pay down on the list. And essentially the reason I'm here is to kind of give you an idea of what we're facing with this project. We're looking at a 50-unit project for elderly, and we're looking at a couple properties right now. But it's more of an urgent, more of an urgency now for us to get the money on the bonded list. And the reason is that we are looking at a couple properties. If anybody has ever dealt with HUD, the allocation of funds is extremely difficult and arduous task. What we can do with money or what we can do with our budget is extremely limited. And we have some funds that are unrestricted that we're going to be utilizing towards this project. Some past projects that we've issued bonds for, we've raised some funds for that we can use unrestricted. But right now we're looking at properties. We're starting negotiations with 2 properties, and we need to issue an RFP for a developer soon. If we get shelved down to down the list later on down the list, there's a possibility we're not going to get the full $500,000. And HUD really needs to see us come in with funding that's secured and guaranteed. They don't really want to see us with you're going to get this money eventually type of thing with a SPLOST. So that really kind of puts our project in peril. And essentially, I hate to come to you guys and throw it down and just say, a vote putting us on this list is essentially killing a project. But that's kind of the situation we would be in, is putting us on this list to receive the money later would essentially make this almost impossible or untenable. So that's why I'm here, is to kind of let you guys know that if you can imagine your list of SPLOST items are pantry items. You've got some items that are your breads, and you've got some that are your canned goods. Well, we're the milk. We're going to expire a lot quicker than some of your other items. So if there's any items on the other list, I'll have them in front of me, and I'm not here to try to underscore or undermine the importance of any of the other projects that are on the list. My point here is to just say we really need the funding on the bonded list. It's really important for senior housing. We have a growing community. We've had a growing community of elderly for many number of years, and we've needed more elderly and senior housing for a getting this project moving is essential, and, essentially I'm just here to ask, you guys consider moving some things around to get us on the bond list.
Mr. Gardner, would you kind of explain that?
They have the opportunity to meet with Chris, and I won't mess his last name up, so I ain't.
Don't try that.
Not Montesino. Who have known him for a very long time, from his days in Haywood and Shannon. We met earlier today, and he kind of brought me up to speed on exactly where the housing authority was with their project, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that they were pretty much at the doorstep of submitting their application, getting the thing, the RFP and everything finalized for the senior housing. And then I spoke to him, he said, well, you know, is it possible for us to get our set of allotment within 6 months? And that was basically true, because obviously we've all but basically spent our allotment of phase 1 funds, which you guys will see as part of the presentation. So it didn't leave a lot of money for the housing authority at this point. And so there is some potential wiggle room, and I told him, I said, well, the only way that you guys can be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish through your process, is for us to be able to get you all your money in front, because otherwise, you know, we've got our bond into this, and I've described to you guys in a little bit again, in a little bit more detail. We've got a $14 million, we got a $22.9 million wish list, we've got an $8.7 million bond list, and then we've got the remainder of that $14.3 million of leftover projects, basically to vote for pay-as-you-go, but we also recognize that based on the numbers, the pay-as-you-go is only gonna come in around $6 to $7 million. But we've got 2 projects at $1.5 million, which basically leaves us with just enough money to get all the street improvements and all those other things done. So in terms of talking to Chris, I said, well, one of the things y'all might wanna do is come and talk to me and council about it, because, you know, I didn't know that y'all were at this point. I was under the impression that, you know, y'all were fine with getting this money on a pay-go basis, but as he explained to me the makeup and the complexity of their senior housing project, and that Adam Causey being in the room, we recognized exactly where he was coming from, because we were actually recruiting a similar project in our former jurisdiction. So we knew that this is gonna be done within a 36-month period. They're gonna be cracking around on their project, within 2 years. So with that in mind, I told him, I said, well, please have your folks come and make mention to us, because obviously this is new news to us. We didn't know. You know, had we had this information a month or 2 ago, we probably would have been able to adjust to this back then, but we're still within a window to be able to do that. And when you get into the discussion, I'm sure y'all potentially what the big one is for us to be able to make that happen, if that's the wish of council.
What's the total cost of the project?
We don't know the total cost of the project yet. We do know what we have to bring to the table, which is essentially $600,000. 500 of which was the SPOS money, and we have $150,000 in unrestricted funds that we can put towards this. So we're bringing money to the table, and we're looking for the SPOS money to bring to the table in order to satisfy HUD's requirements.
Joe, and I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Joey, what funding pool are you going after for the project?
For the project, I can't answer that. Chris is the wizard.
And see, my background is in housing, so I've
Yeah.
done a lot of senior projects, so there are a couple of questions.
Low income tax rate.
There, okay, so
Yeah.
you're going after tax projects, okay.
And can you just,
And-
go ahead, Gail.
Thank you.
Ms. Hodges?
Are they going through DCA?
Is there any guarantee that, is there any chance that HUD may not want the project?
No. HUD is very much moving in the direction of senior housing.
So what I understand from what Frederick just said is you're getting tax credit, you're submitting the tax credit application
Yeah,
to the state,
we're
DCA.
working on that right
So it's
now.
not actually the federal dollars, they're funneled through the state
Mhm.
DCA. Okay, so this would, just to kind of give everybody an idea of what we're talking about, the property that's out on Bridges Road was a tax credit property. That's the Heritage at McDonough. So you're talking about a similar product?
Right.
Okay. Do you have a location yet?
We've identified 2 locations that we're in negotiations with at this point, but
I'm
we
just
have,
asking this question.
Yeah.
And the question is, has there been any communication with Dr. Greer? Because I understand.
we've
Yeah.
spoken with Dr.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did have Chris, I guess so much vacuum, some of the vacuums, it wasn't taken, so
Okay.
he's aware of it. Chris, you all did a great job at that.
Yeah, Chris is
And you got
fantastic.
cameras already, the foundation up, ready to go.
Yeah.
Other comments, folks? Go ahead.
If the location is here in the area?
It's right on the square. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't
If you
think-
give me
I
a
don't-
second, I'll,
Do you think you should say that with you being in negotiations?
no, I'm not gonna say, but, because we
I'm
don't
not
want
asking
to.
for an address, I mean, we're not, it's not like some remote part of the town.
Well, the challenge with finding a perfect location for these, applications is you gotta find a place with, reasonable access to a lot of different things. And so that really narrows your scope, and we've located two, that, if you're close to transportation, transportation that helps your application, if you're close to groceries, if you're close to, and we've identified some locations that development is gonna be occurring that will actually help the application.
Because it's tax credit, have you looked at any other funding streams just to kind of support what might happen on the back end with the developer?
That is definitely Chris's area.
Okay.
He, and I wish he was here because
Chris said he couldn't make it, but.
he had a previous engagement.
Chris is the new.
He's already, he's already.
I'll call him.
Yeah,
I'll
and if you wanna call him, he'll be happy to.
Okay.
He's the funding stream guru. So
Okay.
And so, did you say that, the application process has to be in, this month?
Yeah, he's filling out the application right now, and he's trying to complete, he's about halfway through, and
Before November, December.
is that what he said?
Then they gotta get an application, there's a two-step process, if you try and get this correct. Something is due to HUD in June, they gotta get everything put in place, location identified, make sure those location meet the
June
criteria.
of 2015.
I'm sorry, yes, we have to have you're right.
This is
well, has to be
the intent.
yes, we have to figure out the location
Okay.
very quickly, so that's our next.
Now, the other
We're down.
part of that is basically having a letter of support from mayor and council, so if we haven't started that process.
That's not actually, that used to be a requirement, it's not mandatory anymore.
But it helps,
But
because
it
that's
helps.
how
It
we've
helps,
gotten the
but
other
it's-
two projects
One
on
thing we
the
learned
ground.
is it's not actually mandatory, they used to be mandatory requirements in local governments, sends a letter of support from, but not in.
I mean, we would certainly, we'd appreciate that, but I think the biggest thing for HUD is knowing that the money's gonna be there and that we have land security.
Okay.
Okay, folks, Mr. Gardner?
That's all I have, man, it's public comment, so, when we discuss this plus, and I guess we could talk a little bit
Well,
more.
you guys didn't make me mad enough to get hot and dry my clothes. I'll stick around.
It just makes you look more like that actor that I say you look a lot like.
I don't know which one is that one.
Thank you, Joey, thank you, both. Being the chairman of Valley Housing Authority, what a wonderful organization it is, been around, I guess, since probably 52 or 54, and great work, 119 units, and y'all serve the community and serve the community well. Fred, you wanna go ahead and talk a little further about this particular one, and, this question we have at hand, while we, about the housing part?
Yeah, I just giving y'all, basically what I was doing just now is giving y'all, I'll do a conversation with Chris. And so I know with this part, this is actually on the agenda for us to kind of go over this process a little bit, so if y'all wanna handle it at that time,
Oh,
we can.
okay.
But it is an agenda item, so we could open up the discussion and everything.
Fair enough. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
What do you let me discuss?
It's,
The next council or?
No,
Item 8.
yeah, it is, yeah.
Give a progress report to you.
I don't know that, that's right. Okay. Folks, I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
we got two deletions on the agenda.
We got the deletion of the consent agenda, and let's see the other agenda. We got one each. Approval of the agenda subject to the deletion of 7A, Community Development, Mr. Hubert, which is rescheduled to 10-2. And then on the consent agenda, that'll be the next item. So right now, for the approval of the agenda, subject to the removal or rescheduling of Ben Hubert till October, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Item number 7A, moved to October
Okay,
2nd.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say that the consent agenda is being removed?
No, ma'am.
Just
I'm
just
talking about the approval of overall agenda. That's all I'm
Okay,
talking
item B.
about. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Just 7A. All right, any questions? Those,
Who seconded, please?
all those in favor of the approval of agenda subject to the approval and rescheduling of other items, October. Now we'll move down to item number 6, approval of consent agenda, and on there, there's item number D, which is approval of proposal AMEC, X number $1,000. We are to delete that item. Item number D.
Mayor, I'd like to ask that B be moved so we can discuss it.
Item number B. All right, ladies and gentlemen, approval of the consent agenda. We, omitting item 7D and 7B. Entertain a motion. Second?
Second.
And a second. Anybody have any questions? Any comments? It's right. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
You said 7D and
Six B,
6, I'm sorry.
six B and
Yeah, it
6B.
is. I'm looking at 7.
And 6B is just moving
Right.
to the regular agenda.
Right, you're right, Ms. Vincent, thank you so much. Okay, any comments? Ms. Price?
The motion is approval of the consent agenda for item A, C, and E. We're taking item B to move to regular agenda item, and we are deleting item D.
Okay, would you please vote at this time?
7 in favor, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Price. All right, let's move down here, the folks, Ms. Pruitt has suggested that we, 6B, we pull out and consider individually at this point in time. Ms. Pruitt, do you have any comments, or I'll let her?
I just want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples here. This company has been cleaning this building for 30 years. Mr. Craig is here tonight. He's done a wonderful job for us. So,
Mayor,
are we
I'm sorry,
comparing?
just point of order, I'm sorry, councilperson. What we just did was we motioned to remove these items from the consent agenda, but we need to approve these items. And then we would move on to the next item. We haven't approved the items that are on the consent agenda.
Did you say approve?
What we approved was the removal of being.
Approve all items with exception
Yes,
of those that
yes,
we
sir.
remove. This is what I thought I said.
She said
That is-
approve A, C, and E.
Yeah,
With the removal
With
of.
Correct.
Removal of.
that's what I thought you said.
Okay, so
I
we
think
just
I think it
combined
did,
two
yeah.
motions instead of doing it individually. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, thank you. Go ahead, Roger.
So, I just want to make sure that the savings is real, that we're actually comparing the same thing that he's providing versus the new contract.
Ms. Gardner, you want to respond to,
Yes.
yes, go ahead. Yes.
When these companies, when all of the companies were reported back on their RFP bid, it was with a list of items, to cleaning services that we wanted for our facilities. So when they bid on those particular items that we had on there, so you're comparing apples to apples.
There was a $5,000 difference between the lowest bid and the highest bid, which raises a flag for me, but,
But and I said, you're going to find that in any bid proposals that we've done, you will see somebody high and you will see somebody low. And typically when you go with a low person, cluster, most of the folks tend to sit.
That's
and
what
all-
worries me, is I'm always scared of the low bid.
You know, so you look at, when you look at the low, you look at the capacity, you look at the high, you look at the capacity, and 10 times what you find out is that 9 times out of 10, the high guys are usually a national chain, and they've got their built-in pricing and they don't remove them. You typically find a cluster of folks, and then you look and you review everybody. What we did was we looked at all of the RFPs, all the bids that were submitted to us. We ranked every bid, we gave you all a ranking of how we came up with the numbers we came up with. And at the end of the day, we did our due diligence with our checks on all the firms and the firm that won the bid, and we checked their references. So that's what we have submitted to you guys, and other than that, I don't know what else we could have done different. And so the recommendation is you have there with the firm that answered all the questions as it relates to the criteria we put on the bid, and they gave us a pricing. What will determine if y'all decide to go with that company is when they come in and clean, if you don't like the way they're cleaning, we fire them. Simple, and put it back on the bid. But that's what you have in front of you.
And the way the contract reads, we have that option, correct?
We do.
Yeah.
So
You can
from
do it
now,
either way.
now to June,
October
and then-
8th.
The contract can actually be terminated anytime,
Anytime,
30 days
right.
written notice to either party.
Any other questions?
And what happened about the insurance, situation? I read a lot in emails, but
That's up to y'all to decide what limits you want to require. So what I did is I prepared for tonight, so that you could go ahead and approve one of the contracts, you know, some version of the contract, I guess I should say, tonight. I have the version that was sent out to you all, everybody initially, with the rest of the agenda documentation that has, let me see, the monthly rate is $2,875, and that, the limits on that one are, and we're talking specifically about the workers' comp limits, because that was what the focus, Gail, I think in the emails were. But the employer's liability there are 500,000, 500,000, and 500,000, and that, that's employer's liability, each accident, employer's liability disease, employer's liability, each employee and then policy limit. And that's actually a little bit more than what than our current vendor has, right now. So, and that's under the,
and that does not change the bid amount.
no ma'am, what would change the bid amount, that's under those limits I just told you about. What would change the bid amount is if we went up to a $1 million requirement on the employer liability side. And interestingly, I almost gave Steve Roberts on Cleveland a heart attack when I started talking to him about this yesterday, so he could probably tell us that they talk about the impact of going up on the employer's liability side, but, or confirm maybe that there is a substantial cost there, but, what would, and that's the second contract. The second contract that you could look at is if you do decide to go to, which is totally up to you guys, you could go to $1 million per occurrence on the employer's liability, and that has the effect of driving up the monthly payment to $3,325 per month.
As opposed to,
2,000,
2875.
thank you,
so there's a difference of,
$450 a month? If I did that math right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
about,
right.
about 6,000 a year.
Yeah, you know, that's the price that it would cost them to raise those limits. Now, that policy can be used for all their clients. So the fact that we have to bear that burden is a little, that doesn't sit well with me, because all their clients will benefit from that, not just the city who's requiring it. I brought this up, as you guys know. The reason for it is that there's a gap between what the city has and what we're requiring these contractors to have. If you have the worst case scenario in insurance, as far as a workers' comp claim, the city is on the hook for $1.5 million in damages to their employee, if we have that. Now, chances of that are small, but we all need to be aware that that is a chance. And it can happen, just because it happens once, don't mean it can't happen twice. And that could happen over and over. You know, that's extremely unlikely, but it's still a real possibility that one of their employees can get hurt in one of our buildings. And if they have, even if it's something catastrophic, we could be on the hook for 1.5 million.
I think the other thing that we have to remember is if we invoke this requirement on this contract, and we've got a whole lot of other contractors that we've gotta do the same thing.
Well, we have the same risk on all those as well.
And what is the current liability certificate amount? Do you know the current, how much is it?
It's,
Are you speaking of our current
The
contractor?
current
It's the
contract.
lower limits, where you can have a bigger gap right now. And you make a good point as far as all the other vendors. How many vendors do you think we have, Fred? I mean, we have a lot, put it that way. This risk that we're talking about on this particular contract, it goes for all of our vendors. So while the chances of this vendor are small, when you look at all the vendors, you run a bigger risk. There's an extra cost to it.
Craig, Councilperson, Elrod, I understand your background is in insurance, but I can assure you based on, if this were a development project, we would be looking at a limit like $1 million and above. But this is a cleaning contract, and so just by virtue of standard, it's $500,000.
My cleaning
Not
contract
a
on
million.
my cleaning contract on my office, that's $1 million on my workers' compensation.
Okay, do they have offices other than yours?
Yes,
Okay, how many other offices?
they probably do 30 offices,
Okay.
20 offices. I'm just here to tell you, the standard that I see is to match whatever you have. That doesn't mean the standard is $1 million for everyone. It's to match what you have so that you don't have a gap.
So do we go back from, say we approve this with $1 million, do we go back tomorrow morning and inform all the other contracts that we're gonna increase their license requirement?
I would
We're
say,
not
We
licensed
can't.
insurance to
Well, I
$1
can
million.
answer that question, we can't.
I would
mean,
say that
for the
renewal-
ones we're already under contract with, we couldn't, but
can't,
renewal,
but at
you know,
renewal, my suggestion would be that.
What you suggesting?
Our vendors should have to match what our insurance are so that we, the city, do not have a potential
What's the city
liability.
certificate? How much do we have?
the city has $2 million per occurrence.
And I'll tell you, that's high.
It is, and that's what, our insurer actually says.
That might cause a real problem for our vendors too.
He said you don't wanna price them out of being able to obtain the
You don't want to price them out. It's a balance game, but you also don't want to be liable for major damages down the road. And I'll tell you, $1 million on workers' comp, $2 million on general liability, that's not asking for the world, quite honestly. But, this particular one that we're talking about is, it's for us above the night, but I think in the future, we need to take a long, hard look at our insurance requirements.
Well, this is gonna be renewed in 6 months, right?
Correct.
So why can't we address, this total situation, during that time period? So it's a renewal, and then any other contracts we have, we will come up to some sort of,
That was gonna be my recommendation, because there's no way we're gonna make a decision on overall vendors tonight.
no, we need to have all of our vendors and know exactly how much they have and what we want.
Exactly.
Let's see that was. I'm very sorry.
It's an emergency, I'm sorry to bother y'all.
That's okay.
But as she mentioned, Ms. Knight mentioned, that is a great choice.
If y'all just be patient. We've got a situation here with, this particular item that we pulled out of the consent agenda, put it on, a separate item. Is there any other discussion before I call for a motion? Any other discussion relative to what already been said?
Man,
Yes.
real quick, one of the things I think we need to look at doing, and I think we've already started doing this, but, as it relates to the insurance issue, is looking at, these, new contracts coming on board. That's something that we already started discussing. But one of the things we'll do is we'll kind of look at what, from a municipal standpoint, working with GMA, what has been the average insurance coverage based on certain activities by municipalities, and then we bring that information about the kind of DI, what we're looking at from different types of services. So from professional service and those type of stuff to construction to, labor type services that are provided. We'll look at those and talk to GME and bring them back to you.
So you're suggesting that that's imminent, you plan to?
That's something that, yeah, if y'all want to put it as a form of motion, we'll do it, but that's just something that we'll look at and research. Research it and bring them
No,
back.
that's something we have not done.
That's something we
I mean, we've put some procedures in place to kind of make sure that, with the new contracts, we're making sure all the pieces line up, but if that.
If we need a spreadsheet with our vendors or contracts and know what their levels are.
Would you be ready by September 15th, October 4th? About October 4th.
But we could probably bring you back some information from GMA.
Let me get with Jimmy and see how long it'll take for us to get that. They might have the information readily available. If they don't, we're gonna have to go out and research it, and so that's out of time, but that's fine. I mean, y'all can make a motion, I'm just saying from looking at, looking forward, that's something we can do. Y'all want to
I have a question. Are we reviewing our, services, the level of services that, the cleaning services or other vendors are doing, for the city?
Cleaning services? No, I mean, this is it.
Like, is it a review? Can you possibly, put in contract that our associates will be able to review their level of service on their trash can? Are they,
Oh, I mean, yeah, part of, part of them doing their job here and us being able to look at the level of service they're providing to us. If the email staff complains about what they see going on, how the restrooms being cleaned, carpets being shampooed, the floors being kept. You will hear staff, as we've heard before from staff complain about levels of services as it relates to different items. They'll start to talk to us and tell us, and we'll see on our own. And at that point, we can bring that to their attention and say, look, we've seen some deficiencies in the level and the cleaning service. Y'all need to do something. We don't see that happen, and then we give them the 30-day notice and say, look, we've asked y'all to do something that's been done. Here's your 30-day notice per our contract section, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, we're looking to move forward.
but is it something that you're having a conversation with them about, or is it something that you're putting on paper and saying, this is the complaints that we're having?
Yeah, we would have to, in order for us to address it formally, in order to break the contract, anytime we get complaints and we recognize those complaints are valid, yes, we would bring that to them and write as part of our complaint, so that they would address it. That way we know the track record.
Okay.
And at that point, we don't see any change in the next 30 days, then we're saying, look, obviously you guys aren't working to the standards that we're accustomed to, or what we were expecting for the contract, and at this point, here's how we trigger that 30-day notice. That could come from any side, it could come from them or from us, but that's where it would come from us, because we'd be asking to make improvements. Same way you would treat an employee in their probationary period. You evaluate and you don't see, you document, and then you turn around and you go to the next day, and at that point you part ways.
That's what I was wondering.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Anyone? So it's time, I think what Fred and Lee were saying that we'd like for them to go to GMA, look at the overall situation, this industry situation in other cities, and get back with us relative to this insurance. I'd like to have that in the form of motion, and or somebody like to move forward with this particular item.
Mayor, I move to approve.
Please.
Move to approve the city's janitorial contract to McDonough Cleaning Service at a cost of $2,875 per month.
You have a second.
Second.
You got a second. Okay, anybody have any questions?
Ms. Mayor, are we trying to put those together, those motions together?
Yeah, I think, well, we gave staff a directive, they're gonna just do it, we don't have to make a motion on it.
Anybody have any additional questions, any comments? Mr. Price, have a motion, we have a second on the floor. Would you please read the motion? relative to approval of the contract.
Motion is to approve, how do they pronounce it? I believe it's Imagine Cleaning Service as the janitorial service for the city of McDonough in the amount of $2,875. Initial contract from October 8, 14 to June 30, 15.
Okay, please vote. Those in favor? Those in opposition?
Whoa. I need the in favors again. All right, and then in opposition?
Opposition, yes, thank you. Okay.
6 in favor, Mayor.
All right, so Fred, we're gonna continue to pursue this and get back with us.
Yep.
Fair enough, fair enough. Thank you so much. All right, let me see, everything's been taken care of, we're down to Mr. Hurd, where's Rodney Hurd?
No, that's canceled.
Second. Council.
Canceled. Number 8.
I should have exited out. Okay, now you come, thank you, Rodney, I apologize. Fred, item number 8, as they have indicated.
Yes, sir. Yeah. For a quick second. One of the things we promised as part of our SPLOS 4 and managing our SPLOS 4 projects as we go, was to kind of give you all a report as to where we are on a monthly basis, or about every 2 months, give you all an update as to where we are with our expenses on our different projects. Right now, obviously before we go to the bond market, we're in our pay-go window. That window, according to our SPLOS attorney and our bonded folks, is going to be somewhere between April, where the SPLOS 4 first started, April 2014, to somewhere around March or April of 2015. And so within that area, we'll be on a pay-go basis. We should go to the bond market somewhere in December, have a check somewhere in January, and our payments will start somewhere in the month of June, somewhere in there. Right now, we get a month-to-month allotment. Our average allotment is right around about $225,000 is what we're averaging over the cost over the life of the 6-year life of this course. We'll see that number adjust up and down based on season. Christmas season, people spend more. Right before school, people spend more. Pretty much right out of school, folks spend more in the summer months. But we'll see some low time where they go down. So our average across on a yearly basis is right around 225. And so what we've done is we basically put a report together based on our pay-go projects, which came to you guys in the month of June, and you guys approved that list for us to go forward on some projects. IT being one of them, the cemetery being one of them, Jonesboro Road being the next one, and public safety. And so what you see in front of you right now is your total allotment that we budgeted for. One of the things we did, and I probably need your approval for this, was we initially had $600,000 under police, public safety, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief. Somewhere, I think I might be right, yeah. And 500 under IT. And in our discussions with the police, he and our IT director, they basically said we need a little bit more money in there, so we kind of switch it around, which we're allowed to do, to move it. And Chief would just get additional cars out of fines and forfeiture for 1 year. So IT needed additional funds to get the IT infrastructure in place. So what you see there is the $600,000 for IT. We're now in the process of we purchased our computers and notebooks. Notebooks for the police. These are the laptops that you see in the police cars. We're replacing those. We're replacing the computers at court. Right now, to give you all an idea of what we've been running at court, anybody remember what a 486 computer looked like? Well, that's what we have running in court right about now. That's a computer that should have been out of service almost 20 years ago. You couldn't run what I have on my flash drive on 486 computer. When you talk to Steve, our IT director, he said in order for the computers over there to boot up, you turn it on, you can go make a pot of coffee, you can drink your coffee, and you still be waiting for it to boot up. So that's caught as the priority as it relates to getting their computers up in exchange, because their system is the most furthest behind. The notebooks, City Hall, there's only 5 of those being done here. Our storage, that was another thing that we're recognizing as we start to look at how do we best account for our storage, as we start doing video of our city council meetings, being able to have those stored in a capacity. We have to up our storage, so that's what that is for. And then the contingency to have the engineering firms do the work. So right now, we basically spent right around $85,000 of our SWAS funds. We have right now we've encumbered somewhere around 116 is before all of those projects are done, that's where they will be, out of those total projects. We'll have a remaining, once those initial projects are done, we'll have a remaining of 514. If you go back to the spreadsheet they gave you all before, the list of things that he's purchasing in IT is much more expensive than that. That's just what we spent the money on in the last, since we started this cost collection. So there's still more to go. This chamber, upgrading the system in this chamber is one of them. The Wi-Fi network is one of them. So we still have a lot of ways to go with the rest of the IT infrastructure.
What areas, where it says services to deploy computers, what is that making
That's where we had to pay money to Dell and another company to help us put the systems together.
Okay.
One of the things we're doing is having to clone. The quickest way to get this is if you know what court systems court uses. Well, if we've got 16 or so computers over at court, you got to clone that service on. It's not just putting a disk in and taking the disk out, putting the disk in. What they do is they upload this stuff on one, and then they allow us to basically plug and play the rest of the computers in and clone. So if you go down the third floor, on the third floor, what you'll see is a row of about 7 computers that are being cloned. And it's a process to basically take that computer and clone them all across all of them. So that way, when you buy a new computer, you have to put in your disk and upload. We don't have to go through the process. It's not a manual intensive process anymore. So they're helping us with that and the other costs behind the scenes to actually build the system in so that we can be able to do that. That's what that cost is for.
Fred, I know one of the IT projects for SWAS is the public Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Do we have a timeline on that?
Actual fact, yeah, he's moving forward on that deal, and hopefully we'll be able to get that done the first part of next year.
Okay, so it's first quarter,
That's pretty much it. What you see here, number 2 on our list is the fire trucks. We just made a payment of $89,000. Our fire truck 1 came in at $268,000, Chief. That truck was here. I don't know if y'all look on the Facebook page, you would have saw the new fire truck on Facebook and on the city's website. Wonderful truck, much more bigger and classier than the one we've got. But it's good to see the guys them excited about the new truck. We're making 3 installment payments on that, $286,000 at $89,000. So we did the first check last week, Monday. I think it was, when we collected the truck last week. We made our first installment, so we make 3 installments on that. Our second truck will be a basically full payment, lump sum payment in January, when that truck is finished, is completed. And that will basically total out that project. So basically from that standpoint, and actually, as you can tell, we came in just a little bit under the $700,000, so they have some money to get some supplies and stuff, equipment to put on the trucks. They'll be doing that with the remainder of the funds, which is able to do. And this is an attestment to the chief and the work he's done to realize that there was a potential savings with the company when they called us to be able to jump on this now to get a reduced price. Because Chief, we were initially doing $350 per truck.
356.
This will be budgeted based on what we knew at the time the truck would cost us. So as you can tell, the truck's actually coming in lower than what we originally estimated. So this was a window of opportunity that we took advantage of. So we see some savings there. And so you'll see that number basically, Mario, when we do the last payment in January for the new truck, that'll go to $600,000 and be off the books.
What about the old truck?
Old truck, we'll keep them for a while, but our goal, I think, is to get rid of them at some point. 1 or 2 of them.
I hadn't got together with you, but I would like to put that on one of the agendas to have it approved. I do have both vehicles sold to the same company if it's accepted by Marion Council.
So we'll be able to the other on the list of public safety is police cars. Chief was able to get a deal on getting us some charges this year. There's a little overage on this, so we got a good deal on those. So we're getting 400, we're getting four charges at 148,000 when they're all kitted out with all the requirements for that. That will leave an allotment of 350,000 in his bucket of money to continue buying over the lights for the SPLOST. So these numbers are not just a couple of months, these are basically to 2019 when the SPLOST ends, to pay down on that. The cemetery project, we're up and moving on that, and actually just got some studies done on the 3 lots. That's coming in 2 phases. The contract was on the agenda for tonight, but they didn't get it back to us in time, so we had to push the contract back with AMAC. That's gonna be doing the master planning and design and construction documents for us on the cemetery. We had to push that back to the 15th, but that money's for them to be able to do that. It's gonna start to come out before my next reporting period, so that's the reason why I put that money in there. We'll start drawing that funds down. The 3 lot expansion, they've already done all the borings on the 3 lots, and we got some initial return back on one that he's concerned about, where the water table is actually higher than he thought it would be. This same company's did a monitoring system for us on the 7-acre moisture site that we purchased. So he's looking at some of the data that he had when he did that work a couple of years ago compared to now. So when we talk about our drought situation, when we purchased the moisture property was in a drought, he wasn't seeing the water tables as high. Now we're seeing the water table pretty high. So we don't know how that's going to impact us on being able to utilize those lots. But one of the things I'll tell you, those 3 lots, because of where they're located, basically 2 of them are across from the courthouse. I don't think it's advantageous for the city to put another curb cut on Macon Street. That just doesn't make any sense. We already got 3. And these 2 will be within 150 feet of each other, which makes no sense. That's gonna force us to have to purchase the 1 track that's left over there. That track is actually very deep. It goes all the way back into the cemetery. That'll be the access point to get to these lots. So when we do the design on them, we'll get more yield for our money, and if we try to put an entrance off of Macon Street to get access to those lots, we'll lose lots doing that. So that's something that we'll probably be bringing to you guys in a month or so. And where we are on Jonesboro Road Park, y'all approved us to do the concept plan and design. We're in the process of having that person is actually working on it now. We should start to see some drawdown of the $4,500 on that. That will leave us with about $30,500 in that account as it relates to Jonesboro Road Park and moving that thing forward as well. So that's where we are. We've allotted to spend at this point. Today, where we're going to be, like I said, this is something I want to give to y'all on a continuous basis as we move forward. That way everybody knows where the money's being spent. I'm going to upload this on the website so citizens can have access to it and see where we're actually spending and how we're spending our SPLOST money.
And the Jonesboro Road Park on the bonded list too.
It is, yes. And so y'all want to talk about it. I know one of the other things I wanted to talk to y'all about was our overall SPLOST list, and I know y'all wanted to have a conversation on that, but let me go back. Phase 2. This is phase 1. Ultimately, phase 2 is to pick those phase 2 projects and what we want to get done on those. I want to have that discussion later on in the year, probably at our retreat when there's a lot more time for us to kind of debate what ones, because it's going to be key. Right now, we've got $2.1 million, if everything adds up, total projects that we got to get spent out of phase 1. Phase 2, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, and making sure that we manage these projects in a meaningful way and don't let them get out of hand. Our goal is to have as much information out there to y'all so y'all see where we're going, the progress that we're making. As I told y'all, I wasn't here for SPLOST 3, but SPLOST 4 is going to be managed much more different and much better, and we're going to have everything open for everybody to see where those funds are going. And that's our goal as we move forward. And we're actually working to see if we could project management stuff in Encode and be able to do it much better and keep a track of it through the accounting system so we don't have to be doing this manual work. But we're working on that. And I told y'all we'll improve this as we go along in terms of how we report to you guys. Y'all see it in the format changed just a little bit as we're able to do a little bit more work without the labor-intensive spreadsheet, adding and counting for it on this calculator. And so to discuss that. I hope we could do that, but if y'all also wanna go into the discussion on the overall sports list, cause I think y'all said y'all wanted to have a brief discussion on that, we can open that up as well, and I'll put that chart up for y'all.
Since we, started with Pago, it does not affect, Jonesboro Road Park being able to stay on the bonded list, right?
No, cause what we're gonna do is basically just
We could.
we're minusing that, we're gonna minus that money.
Okay, and, we will move forward to make sure there's, a clear intergovernmental agreement for what we're doing out there, right?
Yes, and that we discussed at the last meeting, yes, ma'am.
You're talking about the county.
Yes. But that's where we are. The caveat that I was adding, I had some initial conversation with Dawn Ash, and this is not very clear. And I'm gonna zero in on number 8. Our radio system, apparently the county pulled back the bid on the radio system. And my understanding of it now is that radio system is not probably going to be done as quickly as we initially thought in terms of the county side. I'm waiting to hear back from Dawn.
Wasn't that a state requirement?
Yeah, but I think the bid that they initially put out, they withdrawn. They're still gonna do the radio system upgrade. I think they're not gonna do it where they're asking us to put our monies in,
Okay,
up front.
okay.
And so that was the reason why this ended up on the list, was because he thought that we were gonna be doing this under that RFP up front.
Okay.
Now, my understanding of it is that's not gonna happen, probably not gonna happen. He was on vacation last week when I talked to him and I said, well, let's get together, this week, and so he got to get back with me. But there's a potential for us to be able to move the 624 off the bond list.
So can we go ahead and put the housing authority there?
That's what I was gonna say, that could be the replacement of where you wanna move. If Dawn responds, we can put it back on the agenda,
Okay.
because I still think we're still got some windows. And we're talking to Mike Harris today, they have, the Stockbridge have been they're revising their list as well.
Awesome.
So we still have more time.
We still got some time. We still got some time. So once I hear back from Dawn, if that's the case, I'll bring it back on the 15th and move it
So
off to
then
instead
we
of
would
free
be
up and
able
then
to
put the
move,
housing authority.
housing there.
That'll save us 124 off the
And
total
in
list.
the spot where our money has been dropped down to one figure, when we had a max figure, it's been dropped down, it's gonna keep us still working fine.
Yeah, and the other 2 projects that we discussed was the McDonough Parkway, projects. We met, Councilmember Pruitt, myself, met with Sherry Matthews, Tuesday, and conversation with Rocky Romero, who's our sports director. They're going to be working on their projects next week, Monday. I think is the county's gonna be meeting to finalize their SPOS list, I think next week, Monday. We'll know better then whether or not the McDonough Parkway becomes a priority project, for them in terms of level 1 and bonded projects. Right now, Rocky said that it was on the pay-go list, but in conversations with Sherry Matthews, Sherry said, Frederick, we're gonna be revisiting and bringing our list to fruition next week. So there's a potential that if it doesn't make it, those, obviously, there's no need to put them on a priority list if the county doesn't, because ours are just a small portion of our contribution to the McDonough Parkway intersection and the expansion from 42 to 155. So there's a potential that hopefully we'll be able to move those off, and I'll hopefully have that information available for the 15th, when we meet again. And if so, what I'll do is revise the spreadsheet to show those being moved off and give you all the explanation as to why. And then the same thing with the radio system, if it comes off, and then put the housing authority, if that's the wish of council, put the housing authority there so that they can get their stuff under the front.
Great presentation, folks. Have any questions? So y'all know what we're talking about?
There's a pretty good chance that one or both of those projects, the radio and the extension, Parkway extension, will come off.
Yes, and if they come off, that's gonna put us under $7 million.
Well, I love that.
Yeah. And then also give us enough room to help housing.
Yes.
And, if, things move forward with, GDOT, are we going to, I understand that the county does not have, the terminus, for Doris Street, they do not have that money on their priority list.
They do not.
is there any chance we can have a conversation with them about the possibility of, putting it on that?
I think yes, there's a possibility. One thing we learned was if we gotta have a conversation with the district commissioner to make sure that becomes a priority
Well,
of his.
And that probably should be done because that will allow the, the improvements that are,
And one of the things we talked about when we met with Sherry was just that, part of what took so long in getting the information was trying to get the county commissioner nailed down as to what's involved, what's his priorities are.
well,
And so
we do need to talk to them
that's
because
a conversation you need to have with them, probably
Right.
between now and when they meet, so.
Monday.
They meet Monday, yes.
okay.
Folks,
So,
so the updated list is 15th,
Say again?
September 15th.
September 15th, SPLOST will be on the list, and we'll know whether we're keeping the 700,000 for McDonough Parkway and the 624 for the radio, and we'll be able to move the housing authority from the pay-go to the bonded list.
Folks, does
and the
anybody,
possibility of
And the possibility of being able to fund the west terminus on Doris and Jonesboro Road.
anybody have any reservations on moving forward with this recommendation? And following through with it, we'll get another update. We've had so many red lines and last minute dates, but one more won't hurt. If we can get it right. If we can get it right. Fred, move forward. 15th, we'll put it down.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Joy, you understand where we're
Yeah, I
at?
think we're just waiting to find out which items can possibly come on.
Yeah, and I'll make a
Let's try to
call.
update Chris.
I'll make a call to Chris as well, so I'll update him so he'll know. And I told him I'll let him know what happened today, tomorrow.
And waiting to the 15th, that doesn't screw you up.
No.
I think we'll be, we're still working on the RFP right now.
I think I just got to do it.
Yeah.
There's some deal on
Friday or whatever.
council and highly supported. It's a wonderful project.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful project. Okay, Mr. Gardner?
Yes,
You're
sir.
doing so well, why don't you keep on and then we'll invite Mr. Roberts to participate.
Very quickly, one of the things we have is contracts on Alexander Park. And I'm gonna let Ron Cleveland come up because they took such a long time driving down here to come talk to us. I don't want them just sitting here thinking we asked them to come down here for free. So we're gonna put them to work. So I'm gonna let Steve come up and kind of give you guys an overview as to where we are with the development of the project as well as the change order contracts that we have on board, the contracts to guide the development of the project moving forward.
Thank you very much. And Fred, I really would much rather you do the speaking. At this point, I think you probably know more about it than I do. We have presented two contracts to the city. One is for the SPLOST 3, and one is for SPLOST 4 to continue the work in design and management for projects that will utilize the remaining funds in SPLOST 3 that were to be allocated to the Alexander Park. Also for all of the funds that were allocated to Alexander Park in SPLOST 4. Our contract, and I assume y'all have copies of that, the dollar amount is for our work as well as for subcontractors, David Sachs, registered landscape architect, excuse me. We also will be bringing in a designer to bring the construction documents, construction plans for the expansion of the pond. And we have two firms that we're looking at to do that work. Just an update on the pond itself. The nationwide permit has been sent in for renewal. We expect that to be coming back within the next 30 days, and final approval, assuming they have no objections from Corps of Engineers, should be the end of November. At that point, we should be able to go full speed ahead with design and getting ready for construction of the expansion of the pond. We discussed at last meeting that the projects that we're looking at doing, and the council had given us the go-ahead to utilize those projects. And those are the ones that we'll be managing and bringing under design.
And the other one, I guess, to change order, right now we have Llewellyn Construction. They're actually out there now constructing our trail systems on Alexander Park, and based on the contract that they initially submitted to us, well, to our project manager.
Actually, to y'all, the contract is
Yes,
between the city and
Llewellyn. And Ron Cleveland is our project manager. They're out there making sure that things get done for the scope of work, and they're doing a good job of helping us in that, because as you know, it's difficult for us to be able to keep track of all these that are moving. We don't have that staff capacity. But one thing that they did was they came in, and as they start to do construction, anytime you do construction, you're gonna find that the lay of the land kind of changes the way your initial bid process came in. And so what we have is we have a change order to the existing original contract in the amount of about $10,000. So our contract is gonna go up. There is some savings, so technically there some things they recognize didn't need to happen, are not gonna happen. So those things were deducted, but the things that were increased came up. Some of the work that we recognize in looking at the scope of work was one of the things we can do, and we've agreed to the city to do some of that, to reduce that amount down to the 10,000, to be up the capacity to do some of those things, and one of them was the removal of the fence on the property. So they were charging us for that. That's something our guys can bring us in, so we set some savings there.
Basically, the change order originally had $36,000 of additional work to be done, and that additional work was going to negate $24,000 that work would have been done had we not made those changes. Taking out the line item with the fence removal dropped it down to a little bit under 34,000, so it's 10,867, I believe, is the total change.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate the work that Steve and I never get your name exactly right, I apologize, did on these contracts, because I think they're a very good comprehensive explanation of the work that these guys are doing for us on these projects. And I appreciate all the detail and everything that went into these contracts. And kind of the way I like to think about them is, you've got the first contract, this, if they've got it identified as 4132, and that's sort of Alexander Park West. And they've got a map attached to the back, and they've even got all of the different tasks that they'll be performing within the scope of this project. And it's broken down between the design management tasks to the construction management tasks, and the different fees that are associated with both of those. And if I'm getting it right, it looks like it's they're going to not to exceed hopefully 134,106 on the design phase, 12% on the construction management fee, reimbursable expenses, and then anything over and above will come back to council to talk about that. I mean, jump in if I'm getting that wrong, but I think I've got those.
Let me throw in one correction. We
Yes.
numbered that 4100-32
Yes.
when that was originally set as an amendment to our existing 4100-32.
Okay.
If we could change that instead to 4100-35,
We'll do it.
because that is a separate contract entirely. So that way we won't be confusing the bookkeepers when we're sending them in.
And again, this is gonna be funded using SPOS 3 proceeds, the tasks and the work set out under that, for 4135 on that, and that, I would just, like I said, I would think about that as Alexander Park West. And then flipping over to, and so tell me, how are we gonna call this one, 4136 still?
Yes,
or- okay.
that one was still good.
Alright, so this one, 4136, I've kind of been thinking about this one as Alexander Park East and Pond Expansion Project.
Yes.
And this one, it's same thing, it's great. It's got a map on the back of it that shows you exactly what the work is they're gonna be doing, where it's occurring. It shows you what the tasks are that are gonna be performed. It follows the same breakdown in terms of design, management, the coordination, permit coordination with GDOT, the bidding process, they'll coordinate that for us, bringing it back to us, of course, for final decision, so that can be done in accordance with the Georgia Public Works Construction Law. And then finally, all the way down through the final construction management phase. And again, just to make sure I'm hitting the highlights there, that looks to me not to exceed $212,048 on that design phase. And then 12% construction management fee, reimbursable expenses. I think I got that
That's
one.
correct, yes.
But again, I really appreciate the work you guys obviously put into this, and just really giving mayor and council a very clear picture of what it is, the work that's going on, and how the money's being spent. So I think this is great. This is great for everybody.
So Llewellyn is actively working right now.
Llewellyn is actively working right now. They have done their preliminary clearing, they put their silk fence out first, they've done their preliminary clearing. Preliminary clearing has gone all the way, the entire 4,800 feet. The clearing, the final clearing, is gone about 3,200 feet, which that's just about all the way through. We can now walk, and Lithia and I are very pleased to say that you can now walk from Jonesboro Road to the end and not attract every pit and every chigger in the woods, because they've moved that out. Before, I couldn't say that. Whenever I left there, I had to go straight home and go to a tick check.
Steve, what's the width that you're clearing? 15, 20 feet?
Well, it varies.
Or
Depends on whether we're doing cut or fill and how much fill there is. There are some areas where it's only about 18 feet is the width, and some areas it gets out to be about 40 or 50 feet. Yes, sir. And yesterday we took an arborist out with us, David Sachs and I, along with arborist and two of the Llewellyn people, walked the entire project, pointing out trees that are not going to survive because of the clearing, or they're not going to survive because they're in bad shape to begin with. And Llewellyn is taking those trees out. If you go out, if anyone wants to walk out there and look, there's a little pink dot on the trees that you won't see there next week, because they will be ground up and mutilated.
That's interesting. All right, any other questions?
One thing I wanted to say about
Yes, ma'am.
about them with tree removal, and the dog park is a good example of how careful David Sachs is about tree removal and providing an environment that leaves enough trees that makes a difference and allows others to survive and serve a purpose. So I really never worry about when he's barking trees, because
I'm glad you brought that up.
he doesn't give them up.
Yesterday, David was going through and said, well, I think we'll go ahead and take that one down. That one, I don't think that one, the contractor was pointing, I think we can save that one. It's one of the few times I've ever had a contractor, and David pointed, it's one of the few times we've ever had a contractor want to keep the trees and the landscape architect want to take it. But David was in conversation with the arborist, and they would agree that this tree, it's negligible. Either that or it's standing out in the middle and it's going to look odd being by itself, and it's not a specimen tree, so we don't really need it.
So you got all these various and sundry widths for up to 4,200, 4,800 feet.
Yes, sir.
The pad itself, is that a 10-foot pad?
12 foot.
12 foot.
12 foot, yes, sir.
That allows for inline skating, allows for somebody in a motorized wheelchair.
A little dancing on it.
That's right.
I'll join you.
All right.
When we open it up.
Any other questions? We need to move forward. We got, I'd like to entertain a motion of authorization me to sign these contracts. Unless y'all have some additional questions, I'll call for a motion. Is
Go ahead.
Vincent? Councilman Pruitt?
Thank you.
Motion second.
Sandra and Roger.
Ms. Vincent made the motion. One more opportunity for questions, folks.
And I have a long motion to read.
Do what?
I have a long motion to read.
Okay.
Y'all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You have the floor, ma'am.
The motion
motion is to first approve the contract with Ron Cleveland, BAC 4100-35, between Ron Cleveland Associates and the City of McDonough for professional services related to Alexander Park West in the total amount of $134,106 and a 12% construction management fee plus reimbursable expenses to be funded using SPOS 3 proceeds. That's part one. Continuing with the same motion to approve contract number BAC 4100-36 between Ron Cleveland Associates and the City of McDonough for professional design and construction management services related to the Alexander Park East and Pond Expansion Project in the total amount of $212,048 and a 12% construction management fee plus reimbursable expenses to be funded using SPOS 4 proceeds. And third, continuing in the motion to approve a change order with the contract with Llewellyn Construction Company in the total amount of the change order of $10,187.85 to be funded using SPOS 3 proceeds and authorization for the mayor to sign these above agreements, documents, contracts, whatever.
Good job.
Nice admin.
I don't even think we need to vote on that. Anybody did that well? Well, we will, just for the record purposes. Those that support the motion second, please indicate by raising your hand. Opposed, like sign, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Here's action. Item number 2.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I knew I had it somewhere. Yeah, thank you. Nice to have y'all with us.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Item number 2.
Thank you, Mayor. So my last item for tonight is a letter we recently received from the Henry County Board of Tax Assessors, and they are putting us on notice that they are going to file an appeal to the Superior Court, as they are permitted to do under certain conditions, to the Superior Court of a recent devaluation of the Briggs and Stratton property. You'll see in the letter that the property was initially valued by the tax assessor's office at $5,823,300 to and then the decrease was determined by the hearing officer, and the decrease went to $5,481,850. That's the difference, if I'm doing math right. I'm no mathematician, believe me, $341,450. So basically, the way this works under state law is where we have a joint board of tax assessors, which we do. Any taxpayer who's aggrieved can appeal this to the hearing officer, which is what happened in this case. And then if there is a decrease in the tax value of the property, then the Board of Tax Assessors is entitled to appeal that to Superior Court, so long as 2 conditions are met. They have to give written notice, like I said, where we have a joint board. They have to give joint notice to both us, the city, and county, and they have to do it so long as neither us nor the county, within 10 days of receiving that notice, votes to prohibit the appeal, then they can go forward with the appeal. So long as those 2 conditions are met, they can move forward with their appeal to Superior Court. So again, that's where we are. They've given us the required written notice. We're within the 10-day time frame. And so what do you have to do tonight? You gotta make a decision. If you want to block the appeal of the valuation, then you just make a motion and you vote to do that right now. If you don't want to block the appeal, the tax assessor's appeal, you do nothing. If you don't feel like you have a dog in that fight, you can do nothing too. I mean, ultimately, that's the decision that you guys will make. But either way, we will let the Board of Tax Assessors know what you decide to do tomorrow. And what I'll add there is, the way the law works is that if either one of the jurisdictions, if either you or the county decides to vote to block the appeal, and that is sufficient to block the appeal. It doesn't take both you guys voting to do it, just one of you. It's not law, written in the negative, it's very law. So you can either vote to block it or do nothing.
I would recommend we do nothing.
Yeah.
This organization has provided, has been the economic engine of the city of McDonough for 60+ years. And I would strongly encourage you to just sit tight on this. I think that's a decision they had to make. Frankly, Lee talked to me about it, many appeal cases I've had, in this hearing officer, I don't know whether that's an arbitration thing or not, but whatever she said, I would strongly encourage you not to participate in this. But that's decisions you have to make. Think long and hard about what they have done for this community in Henry County and the surrounding community. It has been awesome. We're gonna miss them terribly.
I can tell you how it got to the hearing officer if you really want to know, but I think you've heard enough legal mumbo jumbo from me tonight. Oh, did you say yes? Okay, wonderful, all right. So the state statute,
Oh, no, never mind.
oh, see, okay. No, it's all legal procedures, that's how, it was nothing more than that, so.
So you need a motion?
I agree to do nothing. Do we have to have a motion to do nothing?
No, you don't, you
Okay.
just say move on.
Good for you, good for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was not rocket science. No. Okay, let's move down to item number 11. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Vincent's the only one that was absent. I read those minutes today and also read them again yesterday. They look good to me, and I entertain a motion that August 21st minutes be approved. And a second. Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Ms. Price, please restate the motion and the second on the floor.
The motion is to approve the minutes of the special call meeting of August 21, 2014.
All right, please vote at this time. Those,
6 in favor.
thank you so much. All right, Mr. City Administrator, I'm gonna give you a chance to say a few additional words.
Real quick,
Encouragement, right?
very quickly, Hometown Connections, we've got a date, and I think, Chaplain will probably send this out to y'all, if not, y'all will be getting it very soon, October 15th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and we're gonna have it at 88 Keys Ferry Street, which is known as the former police headquarters. That's where we'll be meeting with all of our state legislators, and
What was the date?
October 15th. I think we've had all confirmed, that will be there. GMA will also be there as the Hometown Connection is something that GMA is sponsored, so they'll have representatives here.
October 15th,
October 15th,
and
from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
that's with our legislators?
That's with our state legislators, House and state reps. And so we'll be doing a PowerPoint presentation probably, I've not narrowed that down yet with the department heads. All of the department heads will be there. That is a mandatory meeting for them. And so we'll be talking to them about some of the things we've got coming online. Also talking about some of the unfunded mandates that come down from state government to put a burden on us. And well, just when I say us, the city, but the taxpayers, because somehow we've got to find ways to be able to do those things. But also there are things that they want to advocate for in terms of how they do their business. That's one that we look at. I know probably Chief will be talking about the gun law, and trying to get some to look at some provisions of that and how we roll some of that back if possible. Because it hamstrings the police and being able to do their job effectively. So you probably hear Chief talk a little bit about the new gun law. Public Works probably talk about some of the environmental issues that are coming down through the state. Next one, just to kind of give you all an update is.
Before you go on from that meeting, would you, also, what we need to do is try to speak to, the need of this community to have assistance through the governor's office and State Chamber of Commerce, in assisting, hopefully, the reuse of the Briggs and Stratton building as soon as possible, with as many jobs reinstated in some manner. Because I think it's imperative that we say that to them, and I know that they are willing to assist any city's discussions with the governor concerning asking him to move forward. And I will state that this is a year in which I think attention should be brought to that prior to November. That we stand the very best chance of someone helping facilitate that.
And I have a recommendation as well. And I do understand that this is a different governmental entity, but the school system is so much a part of what we do. I think it would be important to just invite them to be there to
So, we talked about that, and because it's a GMA type of function, and as you did, it was city and state legislators, that's the reason why we didn't let the county and the rest of the folks to the ECCG. But that, we talked about that, but just following your recommendation is what we've done before, that's the reason why we didn't ask all the other entities per se to be there.
And I
But
wasn't thinking about
I'll
all,
look at it.
okay. Well, just something to, kind of toss around.
We discussed it
Okay.
before, but yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay.
Also, as you know, you guys received my email, Adam Causey is turning his letter of resignation and leaving us, and wanted to just officially thank him for the job he's done, and, he's got a lot of irons in the fire, and I guess a lot of that responsibility come over me until we were able to get him replaced, but didn't realize how much stuff is out there that's got his name attached to it. But we'll wish him well in his next endeavor, and we'll be looking to replace him.
Will he be giving you a summary report of the projects he was involved in
Yes.
and the contacts and status?
Also, just to toot our own horn a little bit, is if you've been watching the news lately with what's happening in DeKalb County with some of the elected officials and the use of P-cards and invoices, I just wanted to let y'all know that since Lodi has been here, we've changed the way we do business, because technically we were wide open just like they were. Where invoices would get processed and there was nothing to track that invoice to a contract, to a scope of work, or any of that, we just did that. But we don't able to do that anymore. So thank you for what she's been doing to try to put those things in place, because that helps us against some of the stuff we're seeing, malfeasance going on just north of us in DeKalb County. So wanted to let y'all know that. So we're putting those policies and procedures, and she's making sure that we're looking and protecting us from those issues happening. I know you had some folks who were kicking and screaming because she wouldn't pay bills because we couldn't track those invoices to specific activities. That was the reason why she was asking to stop us from being put in a position where, hey, for all we know, Frederick Garden might have been involved with ABC contractor and writing invoices and getting paid and getting kickbacks. But hopefully that this what's happening there is awakening some counties and cities to really look at their financial infrastructure and how they need to make improvements. That's all I have.
Good report. Madam Attorney?
Mayor, just quickly, last Tuesday, I got to do McDonough 101. That's not something I was expecting to do, but something that I thoroughly enjoyed participating in. I have to say, one of the best parts was getting to meet one of the new council members who was there, and I mean, y'all, she was so impressive. She was such a great ambassador for that group. She was so articulate. She was excited to be there. She was eager to participate. And I just have to say that, I mean, if the rest of your group is anything like she is, and I was betting that they were, that we should all be so excited for the future of local government as long as we can keep them all interested in it and excited about it. I mean, she was really happy to be there.
Yeah, that's what
Loved it.
I'm so
That's
proud.
great.
I'm so proud that Kim is stuck with us, because what I was so excited about years and years ago, I mean, she's actually bringing to fruition, because these kids can really astound you.
Yeah.
And you just have to give them, the platform and the opportunity, and I'm just proud of this council for moving forward with it.
She was great.
I'll just add this, Lee, during Hands on Henry, Catherine was one of the loudest. I mean, not being loud, but just being excited about working and helping out a ministry. The whole group has a lot of energy, so kudos to you.
Okay.
And
Yes.
the other, just really quickly, I'm going to be out of office next, I believe that's going to be Wednesday and Thursday. the 10th and the 11th, I've got my annual City County Attorney Institute over in Athens. That's the annual continuing legal ed seminar that we have every year that the local, the City County Attorney local, the bar section puts on.
And you know, of course, that all of us are going to have massive questions that have to be answered immediately just because you don't.
Well, I was more thinking about how much I would be looking forward to coming back and putting on a PowerPoint presentation and just thrilling you with all the, you know, the new legal things that we talk about. I know you'll be waiting with bated breath for that. But yes. But you can reach me, email or something.
Oh,
No
you
problem.
best not say that. Because you know what will happen.
Frederick can answer your questions.
That's never the whole
Is that it, madam?
Yes, sir, that's it.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
If
Right.
y'all, if y'all would like to put November the 7th, that is a Friday, that's ARC regional breakfast, that we like to go and attend, and we have a treat. Atlanta Mayor Cassine Reed will be the guest speaker. So we will have a table, I'll send this information out to you, but, and so please respond, because we will have a table for us to go, and we leave early on that Friday morning, like about 6:30, everybody, so y'all can plan on that. And another thing, I'm just gonna give y'all a human interest story. Today, a lady, y'all know the Christmas parade applications are out. We already have almost 60. So there's only 20 places left for the parade. This lady calls me, and yes, I'm doing some PR for them, but it's worth it. From Steve Brown's dentist office, just beyond Cheddar's.
Yep.
She said, did we make it in, because you know we accept the first 80 applications. I said, yes, you did. And she says, we need volunteers. I said, what do you need volunteers for? The Saturday before Thanksgiving, this dentist opens up his office for free dentistry for anybody that wants to walk in. Last year, an older gentleman walked out and he was crying. And Dr. Brown went up to him and he said, did we hurt you? What is wrong? And he said, this is the first time I don't hurt in 8 years. Wow. And they are doing it again this year, the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And for anybody that wants to come volunteer, they need our help. And I told her, I said, when you finish that day, you send me a little blurb because she's going to be in the parade. I will announce that, because I just think they are really giving to the community, and I just wanted y'all to know that. And that's my PR. Sorry, I'm through.
That's a wonderful story. It just tells you what McDonough is all about. Caring for others is a measure of greatness, and it's out there all day, every day. Somebody doing something for somebody else. I applaud that. That's wonderful, Janet. Councilman Pruitt.
No, I don't believe this, I don't have anything.
You suggesting we just adjourn and go home? Ms. Benson.
I just
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a question about, I need the date for our one-way pair meeting.
No, I know.
No, it's on the one.
No, October the 9th.
I believe that's right.
October 9th.
You talking about?
This is the one for the public.
Yes.
So
October 9th.
October 9th. At what time? Okay.
At the school
And it's
auditorium.
at
School auditorium.
All right, do you have any other thing, ma'am? Ms. Benson?
No, sir.
Thank you so much. Ms. Knight?
No thing.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes, I have, a couple of things. One of the, things that, I want you guys support on with the McDonough Youth Advisory Council is this month, we are, sponsoring a historical walk with the mayor on September 27th for all the youth in McDonough. And we, at 9:30, we're gonna start at, begin at 9:30. At the Welcome Center. Now, Ms. Mayor, if we get more than 100 or 200, we're gonna have to get, back to the square, the music.
Oh, man.
Because
I don't know how that'll work. I bet it'd be a lot of fun.
Let us know if you need a bullhorn, if you got 100 kids, you're gonna need to talk to them, shout out.
And what I will do is they're registering online, so I have that amount of number for you. So if it's a large number, just be ready.
That'll be fun.
Lord willing, I'll be here.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Ready for one more day. Yes, sir, Council.
And,
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Mr. Janice, one of the things you guys may not know about me, but I am certified dental assistant as well. So I will volunteer my services with Mr. Brown, Dr. Steve Brown. So, let her know that I will, love to be a dental assistant for that day.
I will. Thank you.
I'll put my scrubs back on.
Councilman?
I just want to thank Lee and Janice, and I think Taffy, I put them through the ringer the last 2 days. So, I want to thank y'all for that. That's it.
I have one more thing, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is this, Fox?
It's another interest story.
No, it's not Fox. Okay, one more thing.
We had something exciting happen last week in council chambers that we haven't had before. Somebody got married. They were 80-ish, weren't they? Now, that happened to be the afternoon I took half a day's vacation, but I've heard about it. Fred ran next door and got a little bouquet of flowers. Lee brought her big fern and put it behind there, and we have pictures. Casey did the whole thing, and they just had to get married, and we made it possible, and they just love us. So once again, we come through. And then Fred says, "There's no hope for you kids." I'm not quite.
I did not say that, Jerry.
I'm teasing him, No, he did not. I said it to him and he said, well, yeah, he didn't know what to say.
I think he's blushing, Janice, I think he's blushing.
I elaborated. Fred knows I love him, so I elaborated. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Janice. I was going to say, it would happen so fast, I had to come back from lunch. Leslie said, somebody wants to get married in City Hall. I said, where are they? She said, here they are. And I looked at them, and they were showing one of Ms. Benson. They were holding hands and doing all these kind of great things. And she said, do you have a Bible? I said, no. And so we sent somebody out. Fred went and got the bouquet, and we found a Bible with Burnett downstairs, and got this young lady. We didn't think about it. Jimmy performing the ceremony. Went up and they got to Monterey, and she didn't have it beautiful. Had a little stand there. She stood down, and she remembered all the vows, this, that, and the other, and they kissed and all. And so after we got through, I said, where y'all planning to go on your honeymoon? And they said, well, we're going to the mountain. But I told, her name was Clarice. So I told John, I'm not going home to spend the night with you unless we get married. And I thought that's pretty neat. And then, so I said, well, we're going to the mountain. She said, yes, but we're really going to take our honeymoon on a boat and do something. It's just going to take us a while to get ready. But anyway, what else? You take that for what it's worth. Having said that, there's 2 or 3 things that the job fair, you just can't believe how the job fair is going. We just sent out notices on Tuesday, and as late as this afternoon, Leslie called Janice while I was up there, and DOT is going to be a part of our job fair. You won't believe these other companies. We just sent it out Tuesday. Panera Bread's coming to McDonough. Chipotle's coming to McDonough. I saw their plans today. Thought that was pretty neat. And of course, we got Kia. They're coming along with the dealership. On another new upscale dealership will be Nissan, as I understand it. A lot of things are happening in McDonough. And Veterans Appreciation Day. Last week I put on my Facebook, this little boy walked in Monday, well actually Tuesday, had on his fatigues. His mother was with him, and he said, I've got an appointment with you. I said, I don't believe I have anything on my bed. Well, I understand it. And I said, well, what day are you supposed to come on? And he said, coming Tuesday. I said, well, it's nice to see you. nicest young man you'll ever see. He's 12 years old. And I'm asking his mother tomorrow if he will speak to the veterans on November 10th and 13th, or the 11th and 13th. She said he has spoken to groups. He's a founder of one young boy organization. He has shaken hands with 22,000 veterans at the airport. He has put together people that have sent 8,000 packages to those serving all over the world. He writes personal letters to all of these people in service. I think it's going to be a wonderful event, and hopefully tomorrow she will confirm that. In addition to that, I'm having a patriotic group of dancers that was here July the 4th. They're going to participate. Knowing we'll have somebody in service to speak to us, but I just think we've got a wonderful program set up for our veterans, and here in November. Hopefully that young boy will speak. He has a lot of class, he has a lot of confidence, and I wish you could just see him. He is on my Facebook page, and Corey Jackson is his name, and his mother homeschools him at her office. Isn't that cool? Having said that, I don't have anything else. I entertain a motion for adjournment. Second? All in favor? Coming from the Waffle House, they called this afternoon at the job fair, and they just said they want to be a part of the job fair again. Last job fair, they still have 3 managers. Talking about the job fair. So well.
I'm sorry.